How's it going, everybody, and welcome to episode 303 of Master My Garden podcast. Now, this week's episode is one that we kind of cover every year, and it's Christmas Gifts for Gardeners 2026. And this year, I'm delighted to be joined by two listeners of the podcast. This episode, every year, it throws up some interesting gifts, some contrasting opinions, things that I would like to get as a gift. Some of my previous guests on the podcast have been horrified to hear about things like leaf blowers and so on. But this year, I'm delighted to be joined by two listeners of the podcast. It's Stephen Daly, who's a long-term listener to the podcast, and Eibhlin Hudson, who's a long-time listener to the podcast, but we've only recently been in touch with one another and been messaging one another. So it's great to have both of them on. It's going to be great to get the various ideas and gift ideas that some of you guys listening might want to get onto your wish list. Make sure you send this podcast to your better halves or people who might be buying gifts for you, because you know you get your wish list by sending it out to as many people as possible. So Stephen and Eibhlin, you're very, very welcome to this Christmas episode of Mastery Garden Podcast.
Hi, John. Hi, Eibhlin.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, so this episode, as I say, it always throws up lots of interesting gift ideas. My ones tend to be pretty much the same over the last number of years, but by bringing different people on, different perspectives on, we tend to get some sort of new ideas. So what we're going to do is I know we all probably have little bits of lists here. We're going to go conversational on them. We'll go from one person to the next and we'll chat around the various gifts. But as a way of introducing yourselves, Stephen, you might just tell us where you're from and your sort of gardening story and so on, and then we'll go to Eibhlin and then we'll get into the gifts.
Yeah, hi. So my name's Steve Daly. I'm living in Westmeath in a small village called Coralstown, kind of in between Kinnegad and Mullingar.
Nice.
I forgot to say congratulations on your. Well, this is 300 and how many? Were you saying 300?
303.
303.
Yeah.
So congratulations. That's
Thank you
a
very much.
mighty number. I
Yeah.
remember I started listening to you first during lockdown because
Yeah, so it was only just after starting at that stage. So yeah,
yeah.
you're there.
'Cause
You're there for the long haul.
Yeah, we just moved into our house. So we live in we had lived, myself and my wife Janet and two kids, Evan and Thomas. We had lived in estate houses up till now.
Yeah.
And then just in the end of 19, just before the COVID thing kicked in, we bought a house on an acre. So
Nice one.
so we didn't know ourselves. One of the big attractions was to have that space and have that garden, because I've kind of always liked gardening since I grew up in on an acre as well. My dad was big into gardening, so I kind of caught the bug from him. So I was happy with the opportunity to have a decent amount of space, not realizing the amount of work and maybe an acre was a bit too much. But yeah, so that's kind of the story of how I began listening to you and my garden.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Eibhlin, I know you're an aspiring gardener in that you're in the moving process at the moment, and yeah, the garden will come at some time in the near future, I'm sure.
Yeah, and a bit like Stephen was on an estate house, but also will be going to an estate house as well. So I suppose that's kind of where I'm thinking. And I suppose my background, my parents are big into gardening, my mother especially, and I grew up like on a summer's day. My mum would be waiting for it to cool down so she could get out to the garden.
Yeah,
So she'd
yeah.
often out till 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
hibernate during the day when it's really so. I don't think any of it really passed through to me. I've been known as having a black thumb. But then I found your podcast and I'm learning,
Yeah.
So it's beginning to turn a bit green now. So hopefully
Brilliant.
we'll continue.
Brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, it's nice and it's good. Yeah, definitely the podcast, you'll find something if you're moving into a new house or you're starting a garden. There's kind of lots of stuff there on that front. So it'll be interesting to hear, because you're at that stage of your garden. It'll be interesting to hear your gifts, because Stephen is gardening for a while, and I'm sure his gift list is going to be quite different. So it's going to be interesting. But maybe we'll start with you. I'm sure your mother has given you some tips as well on what you might like. So
Yeah. So when you kindly asked me, I was like, I had a list already kind of prepared, but when I was like, oh no, I better ask the pros what they would like, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. So I asked my mum and I asked one of my friends who's a really good gardener, and both of them had the same top two.
Wow.
which have been on your list before.
Well, let me
So
guess.
go on.
One of them is the secateurs. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And you know what? It's like, but you can never go wrong with a secateurs, can you? You know,
No.
you always could do it. Even if you have one, you could always do it another. Or you know, so yes, both of them said secateurs and a Mr. Middleton voucher. And I have actually got my mum this in the past, a Mr. Middleton. So I know vouchers
Brilliant.
are probably not the best, gift, but she
Well, they're on my
definitely loves
list. Don't feel too bad. They're on my list too.
Yeah,
I
so
I can
that was
understand.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
can
definitely,
understand the secateurs because like everybody, no matter what sort of a garden you have, big, small, urban, rural, fruit, vegetables, flowers, whatever you're doing, you will always have a use for secateurs. And I
yeah,
can understand why every gardener would want one.
yeah,
Yeah, and it has, as you say, it has been on the list before, but
yeah, yeah.
I
So
definitely,
sorry to start with a boring one, but
no, it's
those
a
were the
brilliant one.
honest. That was the
It's a brilliant one because I suppose the thing about it is if you are listening and you're thinking of getting a gift for somebody who's a gardener, I don't think you can go wrong with that. You know, it's you could go very wrong with certain things. Maybe we'll talk about them later, but definitely a secateurs you won't go wrong with. And Mr. Middleton voucher, that's a lovely idea because it gives you a little bit of variety. You can get your bulbs, you can get your gardening, tools, accessories, seeds. So you have quite a lot of options there. So even though
yeah,
some people may not like vouchers, definitely if you're buying a Mr. Middleton
yeah.
voucher for a gardener, they're going to get something that they will like. So I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
It's kind of the wrong time of year for, see, I'm beginning to learn, for certain, types of bulbs and stuff like that. Whereas if it was another time of year, so like for birthdays and stuff like that, or you
Yeah,
could get like, some very strange looking dahlia or something like that, or some
yeah,
fancy tulips, but I suppose the time of year that's in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as well as that, I was just thinking about that myself. So you could go very wrong with a tree or a certain plant because it has to suit the person's garden. Maybe it's something that you might only have one in the garden; they already have one. So you can get it wrong with
Yeah.
a plant or a tree, but a bulb, a bit like a secateurs, you can't really get it wrong because if you buy some nice bulbs, doesn't matter again what sort of a garden they have, they'll be able to put it into the ground, into a pot. It's going to suit pretty much everybody. I don't think there's anybody that it wouldn't suit. So yeah, to have the voucher that you can buy the bulbs when the timing is right is a great idea. So yeah, they're two brilliant gifts to kick us off. Stephen, let's see. Did you have a secateurs on your list?
No, I'll tell you what I had, and it's kind of related, but it's not a secateurs. I have a nice Felco secateurs that I have for I don't know a number of years. But I'd love one of those holsters. You know, like the little leather pouches that
Oh
they
yeah,
sit
brilliant,
into.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, and and they have a whole array of accessories you can get. I think there's like a sharpening stone you can get, and but I love the idea of just being able to stick it on the belt or whatever when you're walking around,
yeah.
and yeah, I think you can get them off Felco brand or other brands, I'm sure, or Grand or whatever. But I think that would be quite kind of handy and is like tied in kind of nicely to what you were talking about there.
Yeah, that's a really handy one, and yeah, it's perfect as well because it fits on your belt, or there's a little like clip on the back of it so you can fit into the top of your jeans or your work trousers or whatever it is, your shorts or whatever. So yeah, that's
No,
an
exactly, because sometimes if you have it in your, well, I find it if I have it in my jacket or whatever, and I'm leaning over something, like you can suddenly get a blade into your chest,
yeah,
I
which is not
suppose.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like, I'm kind of thinking it'll be a little bit safer, more secure if it's kind of down in my belt or whatever. So yeah, but
That's
I go ahead,
that's
yeah.
yeah, that's a nice one to pair with the secateurs. Yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely somebody would use that as well.
But what I did actually have on my list was I was kind of thinking of more, I don't know, broke it down into the topics, and one of them I had was like a hobby, and the hobby I was thinking was dried flowers, like use of dried flowers, okay,
Brilliant.
and because I know my wife in particular, Janet's big into this, and what I've done before, and I think has been fairly successful. I've kind of bundled a couple of different products together, and it's made up a nice kind of package. So I've gotten a book, so like it's for a bit of inspiration. I think it's called Everlasting. And it's probably again, there's loads of other books out there, but it's called Everlasting by Bex Partridge,
Oh yeah.
and it has these cool designs of what you can actually make.
Hmm.
Um, And then with that, I've gotten some seeds as well. So some seed packages from Seedaholic and a couple of others.
Nice.
With straw flowers and honesty and poppies, achillea and a couple of teasels. I've teasels coming out my ears actually, don't talk to me. And with that, I've seen these nice raised, you can get these little raised beds. I think you've seen them in Tirlawn, a couple of the country shops. And then I've also gotten a dehydrator as well, so you can dry out the flowers at the
Oh
end.
yeah, yeah.
So, and then I've also gotten with that, you can get them, they do these cool little, they're glass frames. And I don't know if
Right.
you've seen them before. So you can dry out your flower and you can press your flower. And then you can put it in this glass frame and it's compressed, but your flower is compressed and your leaves, you can get little ferns and it's really quite nice. And that flower is compressed between the two panes of glass.
Brilliant.
And yeah, they're quite beautiful. So the idea kind of is that if you're giving them all the tools all the way through to from the seeds, the inspiration, the seeds, to growing the thing and then displaying it at the end. And I thought that
Wow.
they've
And
no
you,
excuse not to do with that, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a brilliant gift. And you have actually gifted this yourself.
Yeah,
You've made up this. Wow.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
very good gift. And that book has previously come up on the past podcast. I think it was Julianne, not last year, the year before on the Christmas
Okay.
gifts. She mentioned that book to be the best that I think it was her, the best book for cut flowers. So that's a
Yeah.
brilliant book to start off. The seeds, obviously, then the raised bed. Yeah, that's a brilliant gift.
Well, I
So
didn't get the raised bed because I already had the bed, but I was kind of thinking if I was to get this from my mom, for example, like she lives in a
yeah,
smaller house and she'd have to dig the bed and all that malarkey. So if I just give the raised bed, for example, you can get these really cool ones for about 50 odd euro, and they're at a good working height,
yeah,
and you can just fill them with topsoil or whatever media you want, and then you're set to go.
yeah,
You don't even need to dig a bed.
yeah. That's crossing off one off my list, but in a
Oh,
much
of
better
course.
way. But in
Sorry.
a much better way because I have written down hamper, and I was going to talk about different things that you could put into a hamper, a DIY hamper, let's say. But you've really tailored it for something specific there, start to finish. So that's a brilliant idea, and I suppose you could do that same team for somebody who wants to grow their veg or somebody who wants to start a fruit garden or whatever the case may be. But that's a brilliant start to finish. Just to go back to the glass, the two pieces of glass framing the flowers. Um, can you remember where you got that? Or
Yeah, I know I got them on Amazon before, and I remember I think I got two of them and they were ridiculously overpriced. They were about I spent about 25 quid on them, I think. But I know Janet, my wife, saw them subsequently in deals, I think it
brilliant.
was, or your local, not nowhere particularly
Yeah, yeah,
fancy, and they were only tenner a pop. So
right.
yeah,
And
I
are they
don't think they're
framed then? Is there a frame with it?
yeah, they have a little brass frame all the way
Nice.
around, and a lot of them come with sort of a brass chain coming off them so you can hang them on the wall, and they're beautiful. They remind me of, do you know what they remind me of? Do you know those Victorian drawings of flowers that you'd
Yeah.
see? But they kind of remind me of that. Like obviously they're not a noted or anything like that, but and they last really well. Just don't leave them in somewhere in direct sunshine because they'll kind of bleach out the colors. But yeah, they're really effective and they're quite beautiful when you leave them around the house.
That's brilliant. What would you think of getting a gift like that, Evelyn?
Yeah, that sounds it sounds really cool. Yeah, especially if you're I love the idea of having like a piece of art to kind of capture
Mm. And something at the
your
end.
endeavors. I see when you get, yeah, though I'd be
Yeah.
afraid I wouldn't be able to follow through on it all,
You'd
but
get
it
there.
sounds
You'd get there with some
like
of
you
them
knew
for
your
sure.
audience very well. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's a nice gift. And at the end, then you have this piece, and there's I think this is a really important part of gardening. This pride that you get at the end of it. So whether that's grown veg, grown fruit, you know, or cut flowers, and you have this something at the end, whether it's a home cooked meal from your own vegetables, or whether it's something to hang on the wall, like Stephen has mentioned there. I think that's a really important thing that you go through that process, and then you have this something at the end that gives you
Mhm.
that sense of pride, and I think That's a brilliant gift. Really, really brilliant gift. So we'll switch back to you again, Eibhlin. What have you got here?
So this is a gift I received in the past, possibly after giving a hint. So it's a click and grow garden. So basically, I don't know if you've seen these, but basically it's like a little kind of pot with, you can get different number of slots, and it has a little arm with the light on it, and it basically, you fill up the tank, and you can basically pick a number of different plants, and you can have it there sitting in your office, or somewhere in your house that doesn't get light. So it's like a mini little greenhouse.
So it's like you're growing in hydroponics, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you have this light that's, so it's mostly used for herbs and things, I would presume, is it?
Yeah, and I think you can get like small little flowering plants as well. But it was great for like, me who doesn't have a clue, because you can't really go wrong with it. And there's an app as well that you can kind of
cool.
You can track, okay, because you raise the arm as it grows,
as the plants grow.
Yeah, so you kind of need to be careful what type of, you're not growing ones that grow too dissimilarly. But no, it was great, and the kids loved it and all this kind of as well. So yeah, it was really cool. It probably overpriced for what it is, but it was, I can't remember now what was the gift. So
you can't say.
And you can subscribe as well and get you can pick different ones every time and stuff like that. So,
and any idea where you got that?
Click and Grow.
Click and Grow. So that was the name of the product, and that's what.
And I'm sure there's similar, or if you Google Smart Garden or something like that. You
Click and Grow. I haven't come across that before now. That sounds like a neat idea.
Yeah, it was very cool, especially so you can grow something like in January. So
you can grow all year round.
Yeah.
And the person that you gifted it to, were they living in an urban
environment?
I
was the recipient.
You were the recipient. Oh, nice.
I was the recipient. My husband got it. So so it was good, and it kind of so I would have had it because I'm working from home a lot. So I would have had it in, some little bit of green in the office, at the home office kind of thing as well.
Brilliant, yeah. So next on your list, what else have you
got? So this is one that I would like to receive. It's like those kind of really nice watering cans for indoors that you sometimes see with a really long kind of spout that almost look like an ornament.
Yeah.
So I think that would be kind of a nice, maybe more, it probably might end up being more of an ornament, because I'm not great with the indoor plants, apart from the click and grow thing. But I think they look just really nice, and maybe it might remind me to water the indoor plants a bit better. If I seen, there's that, it might just make me more likely to not kill my plants. Although I could overwash them, so that's a whole minefield.
Brilliant, but that is a nice gift, and a good quality watering can. So there's really is a lot of kind of decorative cans out there, but if you can get one that's functionally very good as well,
that would be great.
That would be great, yeah. So I've seen some really nice decorative ones, and when you go to water out of them, they're not, they're meant as a design rather than a watering can. But there is some, for example, Hawes, they make a really good one. So write that down and push it through the door to your husband there. They make really nice ones for indoor and outdoor, but they're beautiful, but they're also really functional, and they're very good. And I'm sure there's others as well. But that would be a really nice gift, a good quality watering can, yeah.
I was only looking at one yesterday. Funnily enough, I was in the garden centre, just meandering around yesterday, and it has this intricate design of the nozzle as well that goes up and around and twisted. Well, they look really, really good. So you can imagine it, you could stick it in the corner of the kitchen or around the house somewhere, and it won't look, out of place, or it won't be an eyesore.
Yeah, it's cool, and as you say, it'll remind you then once it's there somewhere and it looks good, it'll remind you then that listen, I need to water the houseplant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So Stephen, back over to you.
Oh, Jakers. I was kind of thinking of something around the garden, so something that you can, piece of furniture or whatever. But I know you had people talking about benches and seating before, and I think that's really valid. I think that's really important, because it's often times that you're meandering around the garden and you don't have anywhere to sit, so you're standing all the time. But then because you had said it before, I said I go with maybe something that you hadn't, which was a hammock. So I got a hammock. When was it? At Bloom a couple of years ago. Now it's probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was from an Irish company called, what were they called? Hammocology. They were
Oh
called.
yeah, I've seen them. They're always on the entrance there, just when you're coming into
Yeah,
Bloom.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they give you can get on one side, you can obviously get the hammock itself. And what I'd say about that particular brand is they're actually we've had it in the garden for 4 years now. We take the hammock in at winter time, but the frame at which it's on has remained outside for the last 4 years, and it's as good today as it was when we got it.
Yeah.
So the way we use it is we've one side suspended off or tied onto a tree, and then it loops across and it's connected onto this a 2x4 piece of wood that you can buy off them.
Yeah.
And you nestle him in the ground, you dig him into the ground, and then you can leave that structure there all the time, and then you bring in and bring out the hammock as you need it. But it's really nice. What I find is, if we have we have it down in one of the corners. We have a big triangular site, and down in one of the corners we have this pond, and we have a big sycamore tree, and it's nice to, when you get down there, you can, in the middle of summer, you're kind of away from the house and away from the kids and all that stuff. If you lie down in the hammock and just so you're lying there and you're looking up through the canopy, the tree, and the sun, it only happens maybe once or twice a year, but for that 15 minutes, it's worth every penny. Like, it's really quite nice. So yeah, that was
That's a
something
nice gift.
probably a
That's
nice
a
idea.
lovely gift. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because the River Barrow, there's a lovely walk about 10 minutes away from us, 15 minutes away from us. And early one Sunday morning, about 5 weeks ago, the weather was still good anyway, so it must be more than 5 or 6 weeks ago. We were down there for a walk, myself and my two daughters, and there's a lovely coffee shop, Barrow Brew, just right on a little truck wagon thing, and all their seating is right in the middle of the mature trees. There's beech and oak and all that there, and we were sitting there, but around the corner there's a sauna, and then around another corner there's these hammocks just sitting there or hanging there. And the three of us went around, and there was three spare, and we just sat into them, and we spent about 10 minutes in total silence, just as you say, looking up at the trees. And it's unusual for there to be silence for that length of time, but it was so relaxing. And I hadn't been in a hammock since, actually, we were on honeymoon in Australia, which is a long time ago.
Good man.
And it was class just to lie there. So I was just thinking, we have a spot. There's Betula Jack Lamonte, and they're gone really strong. And I'm thinking of putting a hammock there, because it was just a lovely feeling lying there for a few minutes.
Yeah, they're a bit of fun as well. Like, when
Yeah.
the kids are all down, like I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, Thomas and Eibhlin, and like they'd often go down with their friends and they'd be playing on it, and they're never going to fall more than 2 foot. So
Yeah.
I don't mind them, and they haven't done any damage to it. They're quite, they're fairly robust as well.
Yeah.
And even if you go down yourself, you can kind of sit down in them as well. You don't just have to lie down in them, and
Yeah.
it's a very, very cheap bench. It's a very, very cheap bench as well. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
so in terms of I kind of wrote down what I think you can kind of pick them up for. Where are they? I think you can pick them up for about 70 quid just for the hammock itself, and then you can, with the frames, you can go as high as, I don't know, 500 quid if you really want to go to town. But you don't have to spend a huge amount of money.
Yeah, and they're brilliant. And they have as well, I'm pretty sure that, when you have it out in the summertime and you get some rain, you can just pop it back into a little pouch that hangs on one side. Am I right in saying that?
100%. Yeah. You just whip it up and whip it down. The only thing I have found is the birds. The birds crap all over it, because I'd often do that. I'd close it up, and then they use it as a little perch.
Yeah.
But I suppose you'd rather them doing their business on the cover than on the hammock itself. So, but yeah, 100%. They're really good.
You mentioned that hammocks are harmless. Strangely enough, my eldest girl was at a sleepover a few weeks ago, and in her friend's house, they had a hammock outside on the trees. And somehow, while getting out of it, she managed to fall out of it and knee herself in the eye and give herself a right black eye. So they are harmless for most people. So
yeah, for most people, the kids will always find a way, though, won't they?
Yeah. Okay, Eibhlin, we'll go back to you and see what's next on your list.
So I'm kind of on the hunt for a nice little table that I can stick at the back of the shed for potting outside, so that I'm not inside the shed making a mess.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm on the hunt for one of those, for something that might be nice to work at,
Yeah.
not too big, and a nice little neat little table that won't rot after a year, kind of thing. Or
Yeah.
yeah, so
A
that's
potting bench is a lovely gift, and it's something that would be used for forever, as long as it's decent quality and lasts and so on. That's a brilliant idea. I like that. What have you got in terms of have you a potting bench, Stephen, in your garden?
I had no. My mother-in-law has used to run a coffee shop, so I have an old. It's like a square pub table. It's the kind of perfect size and perfect height, and it's probably about, I don't know, 1200 by 1200 mil, and it's kind of mobile, so I can move it around. Yes, I can bring it out to outside the shed, or you can leave it in the shed or bring it outside the shed. Yeah, I was only out there yesterday doing I was potting on my perennials actually, here for the grow on. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm currently using. It's nice and robust and strong, and it does the job perfectly.
that's a bit
sounds
like the
really cool.
watering can. It's a bit like the watering can in the window now. It's after reminding me that I need to pot on my perennials.
I know I've had a jungle in the kitchen there up till now,
Yeah,
so they had to move on.
yeah. So on the potting bench, I've seen one recently, and I can't think of the name of it, but so it's not overly big, so it's, I don't know, maybe 3 foot, maximum 4 foot wide, and there was on one side of it, there was a little hole, and you could put your compost. So when you were finished potting, you just slide your compost in, and it falls into like a little storage
Container or
container
whatever.
or whatever underneath. But it was a cool little
I
one.
like that.
But it was wood, and I don't think it lasts very well outside. I think you'd need but it was a brilliant idea. So you could nearly rob the idea and maybe make something like that. So that'd be brilliant, yeah. What else have you got, Eibhlin?
Um, a nice pot or a nice planter, something like that. You can never. There's always probably room for a nice pot, and I think, like particularly bigger ones, because I
Yeah,
think you always at some point need to pot on. So I think a nice big one. But again,
yeah.
it probably depends on knowing your audience and knowing the taste of the person you're buying for as well. So
So let's say you were going to buy one for your mum. Would you buy a ceramic pot, a nice plastic pot, a terracotta pot? What do you think you'd?
she's good for pots, so it's probably she's probably not a good example
Yeah. If
for
you were going to
that.
receive one, what would you like to
I was
receive?
going to receive one. Probably a nice ceramic one, or one of these kind of, recycled kind of ones where they've done something, but but that's kind of fairly plainish,
Yeah.
not too ornate kind of thing. And ideally one of, these ones that kind of have, the
A little caster on it.
trap, yeah, or a trap in the bottom, so that it doesn't get all the water in the bottom
Oh
again.
yeah, so like a water reserve on the bottom,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I've got a couple of I suppose hanging pots that you hang, and it had this reserve in it, and that worked. That helped get the hanging basket. I don't know if you call them a basket if they're a pot, but anyway, that
Yeah,
idea,
yeah.
and it
Hanging
made
pot,
them,
yeah.
yeah, and it made it last, like the flowers lasted much longer than had I been
Yeah.
left completely to my own devices.
It's something if you were if you were in Europe, you wouldn't buy a pot anywhere without a water reserve in it. Even in wetter countries. But in Ireland, for some reason, water reserves
Yeah,
they don't take off at all. But they are a brilliant idea,
yeah,
because obviously we get a lot of rain at various times of the year, but for all the summer, essentially, it is a way of keeping water in that root zone, a lot longer than if you just have a pot with no water reserve in it. It's underused. It definitely should have it. So if you're dropping hints here, what color pot would it be?
uh, probably a black one. Probably black ones, or darkish colors.
Yeah.
That probably tend to. It's probably not good because it probably attracts heat, but that's what
Yeah.
or
If it
gray.
was if it was in if it was in plastic, it would definitely attract heat, and you'd find the plastic black pots get
Yeah,
and the soil gets very hot in them. But nice ceramic one in a black
yeah,
ceramic would be nice.
I've
Yeah,
seen those,
yeah.
the other rusty ones. You know those? Did you ever
Oh,
see
the
those?
cord and steel, yeah.
That's fair play.
Yeah, no,
I think they're quite nice actually. A
yeah,
nice
they're
decent one of
gorgeous.
them. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
I'd say they're
gorgeous.
probably a pretty penny, but
They can
they're
be,
very
yeah, they
good.
can be, but they're not as pricey as they used to be. But they're and you can get some nice kind of different styles in those, different shapes. I've seen some really nice cylinder type ones in them, and they're really nice where you get a set. You'd have a big cylinder and then a medium and a small, and they kind of
Hmm.
nestle in together. And it's a lovely way of staging plants. So
Hmm.
yeah, card and steel is gorgeous, really nice. Would you like to get a pot as a gift, Stephen?
Love one. I'd love one. I'd love one of the huge, big terracotta ones that cost an absolute fortune. They're
Nice
about
one.
200 quid or something. And I have a twisted hazel. Is that a corkscrew hazel?
Yeah,
I bought it in the O'Meara's the garden centre probably about a year ago, and I'd like to have it near the house so you can enjoy it when it's winter and you don't have to go down the garden to see
yeah,
the nice way that the branches
yeah.
intertwine. Uh, but I've left it in the plastic, huge big plastic pot that it's come in. I'd love it like a big terracotta pot to put that in. It would be an absolute dream. So there, if anybody's listening, if
If
anybody's
anyone's
listening,
listening,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it'd be class.
they'll have a job getting that under the Christmas tree, though.
No, that's okay. Sure, I'll take it anyway. You can
You
you
don't
can
mind.
arrive.
Yeah, you can leave it outside. Yeah,
Exactly. I just put a bow on it. It'll be all right.
yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, so a nice pot is always a nice gift, and I suppose, as you said, Evelyn, if you were gifting to your mother, she has a lot of pots already, so possibly that wouldn't suit. But if you do know the person and you know their style, then I think a pot you can't really go wrong with because it will be, every gardener will find a nice plant to go in that and
Mm.
find a nice spot for it. So yeah, I think it's a brilliant gift. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, Steve, we'll go back to you for next one on your list.
Well, this is one that I want, um, which is really practical. I'd like a pair of waders. Um,
For your pond.
for my pond. So we put the pond in when everybody was stuck at home, and I dug this natural pond, and it's really nice. It's really good, but I know for a fact that it's a little bit. I need to get into it now and start taking stuff out. So we're what
Right.
4 years, 3 years on now. So that needs editing. It needs stuff pulling out and cleaned up.
Hmm.
My wife's always saying I'd probably pull a couple of dead hedgehogs out the bottom of it or something. Hopefully not, but yeah, yeah, but you can tackle some of that stuff from the side of the pond,
Yeah.
but you're always conscious it's cold and you don't really want to end up,
Yeah,
upside
yeah,
down
yeah,
in
yeah.
it either. So a
Yeah.
pair of waders would be
Brilliant.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. For anyone with a pond that, yeah, as you say, you can get some of it, but if it's so wide that you can't access it all, it's definitely a must have. So anyone with a kind of a big garden or a big pond in their garden would definitely have waders. And as you said, they need to get in every couple of years to do a bit of removing and
Yeah.
moving of stuff in there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it could double up like if you're big into fishing, I suppose you could use it for, that hobby as well. But
Yeah,
and they're not huge expensive. I was having a quick look. You can pick them up for around between 50 and 100, and I'm sure there's good ones and bad
yeah,
ones. But I think for 50 quid, as long as it didn't leak, it'd be sufficient, I
yeah. And
suppose,
like you're going to be using it once every couple of years. So I suppose it's not going to get heavy use, but it
Mhm.
would be very useful to you when you get it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's something I've been threatening to get myself for a while, but you know what it's like. It's getting the time and the headspace to think about getting it. But
yeah,
yeah, it'd be a welcome under the tree great gift if it was to arrive.
yeah.
100%.
Nice gift. Definitely not one that has been on the list before.
Okay,
So
I haven't been checking now. I haven't. I have to say, fair play to you for looking back and checking up what's been on and what hasn't been before.
no,
Because
I just remember that one has never been on. Definitely not. No,
okay,
brilliant.
okay,
So
grand.
what next on your list, Stephen?
Um, I'll keep it practical. A mattock. Do you know they're like
Yeah.
they're like an axe, all right? Because I spent when I started gardening in my house, there was a lot of stuff that needed removing at the
Hmm.
start, and we're kind of surrounded by natural hedges,
Yeah.
and we also had some cherry laurels, and we had some. But bottom line was we needed to get in there and get stuff removed and
Hmm.
hacking at stuff and bait and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'd always been using a pickaxe for it. All right, but I was watching the competition. The guy from is the chap who does. He's from Retoth, and he does a podcast. He has a not a podcast, but he has a YouTube channel.
Oh, John Lord.
John Lord, that's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has a mattock, and you'd see him walking around the garden centre that he runs, and he'd be baiting this big mattock, and it just seems to make easy work of absolutely everything around the place.
Yeah, no, brilliant idea. Very practical again, but brilliant idea. Yeah, for someone that is into gardening, and if you have a mature garden and you ever have to lift stuff, move stuff, remove stuff, you won't get a better tool for the job. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they're not big. Again, they're not big money. You can pick them up for 30 quid, whatever, down the local hardware. But yeah, I'd be only delighted to have that all gift wrapped as
Nice.
well.
Yeah, you have a lot of stuff on the way now this year, so you're going to have you're going to have a big
family,
pot outside the door.
Plenty of people. They all take notes.
Everyone takes notes, and you send it out to everyone. So you're going to have a big pot with a pair of waders in it and a mattock.
Happy days.
Yeah, happy days. Okay, Eibhlin, what have you got next?
I'm just thinking to be able to open the wrapping paper around the big pot for easily with those tools.
Exactly. Exactly. You'd be tooled up to do it.
Yeah.
So one of these kind of kneeler / seats for when you're out weeding and all that, another task we all love. So so that would be next on my list.
And is this one of the ones that has the little wheels underneath it, so you park up at the edge of your bed and you can flip it one way to kneel on it and then flip it back to sit on it? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, something like that sounds cool. I thought for a second you said wheels. Oh, you can slide along. Is that it? You can slide along.
That's the principle of it. How well they move.
I didn't know they had wheels on them. Now that would move right to the top of the list.
Yeah, no, there is one with wheels on it. So there's one and it's like kind of triangular shaped, and it has a soft top on it. Right. So you can sit on that. Obviously the lid flips off, acts as a tool store. There's 3 kind of wide wheels underneath that can slide along the ground. I don't know how well they'll slide if you're sitting on it, to be honest with you. But the principle is that you can slide along the edge of your bed, and you can be edging and weeding along the edge of the bed. And then if you need to, you flip it over, and it's hollow in the middle, so you can kneel in on it for kneeling. But yeah, not sure who makes it exactly, but I've seen them.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But a proper kneel, a kneeler or proper knee pads for a gardener is, I think, a really good gift, because you'll end up working at ground level. Whether you're planting bulbs, hopefully not doing too much weeding, but you'll be always down at ground level. And to have a really good pair of knee pads, for that sort of work, I think is a godsend. Good example of it, I planted quite a lot of boxes in the last 2 days, and I was on my knees for 9 or 10 hours. And the knee pads, I got really good knee pads about a year ago, and they were just like, you wouldn't know you were kneeling all day. It was brilliant.
Did you ever try ski pants? I have a pair of old ski pants that I use for getting on my hands and knees and them out in the garden. And they're grand because they keep you warm as well, and they've plenty of kind of padding around.
And no moisture getting in.
And no moisture getting in. They work an absolute treat.
That's a good idea, yeah. I haven't tried that, but a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm not going about to go skiing in there, unless the weather turns really bad. But, I always find them, pretty good for that.
Brilliant. So, Eibhlin, what's next on your list?
So again, I go back to my mum and Fred. They're both adamant that they'd like a pair of gloves, and I'm like, yeah, I'd also be up for gloves, and that could be nice. Maybe you mentioned maybe a hamper or something. That a hamper might be nice to have a few of these, maybe secateurs or gloves or something like that. Might be nice.
Yeah, I think gloves are a brilliant idea, and I always find if you're gardening, like I actually will wear gloves very rarely when I'm gardening personally, but I know that a lot of people wear gloves all the time. But I think if you're wearing gloves, you're probably going to need to get a couple of different types. So you might need something for the, with a bit of dexterity for the tedious work, like, potting and whatever else. And then you might need something a bit tougher for if you're digging or pulling weeds or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think gloves is a lovely gift, and there's some really nice quality leather type gloves for gardening now that, for roses and things like that with kind of longer arms on them. So there is a really nice selection, but I think it would be a case of maybe popping 2 or 3 different types together. But yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a
One
nice
and so one
gift.
might be a bit sad.
It'll be a stocking filler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And would you like colorful ones or would you prefer functional ones?
I don't mind having colourful ones, but the function I think will be the priority. I think
Yeah.
the colour is good so that you know that they're mine,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Yeah.
that they don't end up being used for some other, the way these things can disappear
Yeah, yeah.
for other purposes.
Previously, they have been mentioned on the podcast on this podcast, and they've been paired with a gardening apron. Would you wear a gardening apron?
Um, I was listening back to that and I was like, I didn't know such a thing existed, and I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's a great idea. I would. I
yeah.
do think I'd give it a go.
Again,
Yeah,
in Europe,
yeah,
a lot of they're hugely popular in France. A lot of gardeners, male and female, wear them. I don't know. Personally, I don't think I would be comfortable in them. I think that I don't know what it'd be. I could be wrong now,
yeah.
but
I think trying to find one that's not too over the top, like maybe one that's maybe a bit more subtle or something. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't
you
know.
you
I'd give it a go, but
yeah, because we were speaking about Felco earlier on Felco secateurs. They've recently brought out a an apron, like a fairly elaborate one with leather and I just couldn't imagine that they're comfortable to wear in the garden. What do you think, Stephen?
No. But unless you were like an ironmonger or something, then you'd like
Yeah,
the big leather things, and yeah, if you're hammering away and a big burning metal, but
yeah,
not no, I wouldn't. I'd be more into if I could get like a like a gilet or something. Not that I have them, but like
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah,
waistcoat with a bit of heat in it, and you
yeah,
can kind of stick your whatever bits and pieces into that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd be more into that than any kind of apron.
Hmm.
Even the word of apron, it reminds me of my mom
yeah,
and my, but yeah, no, I wouldn't. I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
no,
shield or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Burning
no,
shield is something more massive than a
yeah,
raven.
they look,
Shield would be, yeah, definitely. Like with the sword and the mattock and the
yeah.
shield, I think I'd be well tooled up on Christmas morning.
Yeah, for sure. They looked to me like they wouldn't be comfortable, and then I just know that if any of the local lads drove in here and saw me wearing one of them, I'd never hear the end of it.
That's
So,
exactly it. That's
so
exactly
yeah,
it.
for 2 reasons, I personally wouldn't. But yeah, no, that's another one. Evelyn, what else have you got on your list?
Oh, I'm getting to the end of my list now. I know on one of your recent podcasts, someone had mentioned about a training for someone who may be unwell, and I thought, well, that's actually really nice. I've never had one. Yeah, I wouldn't mind get one again. Probably more of a stocking filler. I don't know how big or elaborate or expensive those things are, but I thought they were pretty good. And I don't know whether you can kind of get how these vary in terms of price, but maybe some sort of like water feature type of thing that you
Oh
could
yeah,
put. And again, I don't know how easy these are to gift to people. Um,
I'd say they're quite easy. Um, I think yeah, they're definitely quite easy because you can get them from little small in a singular box right up obviously to heavier stuff, but they'd be quite easy to gift. I think it would be a water feature would be you'd nearly need to be in the head of someone or you'd need to be
yeah,
sure that they would like the style of it maybe
yeah, yeah,
because there is quite a lot out there. There's kind of the old rustic type ones and then there's a lot of I suppose oriental style ones and you might need to know the style, but anything water in the garden would
yeah,
definitely be a nice gift if you
yeah,
were sure of the person, I suppose.
yeah. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so that's a bit of water in the garden would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice, yeah.
100%.
Stephen, what else have you got on your list?
Something that could end up as a water feature and has done a fire pit. You can get these
Oh yeah.
cool, they're big bowls, fire pits that I've got. I think we got ours in where was it? Kilkenny Architectural Salvage. So
Sharpens, yeah. Yeah.
they do these big goblet type affairs that they have a little stand with them, and they're like they have that rusty finish again you were speaking about earlier on.
Yeah.
And we have it on. We've kind of a patio. Well, out the back of the house, and just during the summer it's nice. You can put it down and throw a couple of logs into it, and they're nice and atmospheric and warming in on a colder evening. It's really nice.
Yeah, fire pits are hugely popular. I suppose. What's that program? Oh, Love Island does we on, and they gather at the fire pit. Can I have a chat at the fire pit?
I'm not quite there yet, buffed up to that level now.
Yeah.
I walk around with my
Um,
tongue, and I don't think Janet would appreciate that at all, or none with her guests.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. But it's no, it's that's a fire pit would be a lovely gift, and I think again that would suit most people. Um, I think anybody would find a spot for it, and yeah, they're a lovely way of spending an evening in the garden around the fire pit. So yeah,
They're not huge
something.
money either. Like I remember we paid about 120 or something like that. And it's quite big, for
Yeah,
what you get. It's quite substantial.
yeah.
Um, and actually, that place in general is quite good.
Kilkenny
Kilkenny.
architectural salvage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just going
yeah,
for knickknacks like is quite good. You can go in there and you never know what you might come out with. But yeah,
yeah.
on one occasion we came out one of them.
Yeah, when you mentioned pots earlier on, I was gonna chat about like there's so much variety in pots, and if you went to somewhere like that, Kilkenny Architectural Salvage, like they have the world of options in terms of pots, whether it's you know your oak barrels to
Hmm.
your concrete ones, your granite ones, granite troughs, you know everything in between. So like you have so much options when it comes to containers and container gardening and pots. Like it there's
Yeah. And
multitude,
sometimes it's nice because if they're old, like they have a bit of
bit of
character
character.
on them already,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
you're not having to, sometimes what I find, I know we're talking about pots again, but you, you can never have too many of them. But when you buy them for yourself, you tend to just get the small but functional ones. They're
yeah,
not particularly nice.
yeah,
But yeah, by going to somewhere like that, you could pick up something that you could put at the front door, or you could put it somewhere where people are going to see. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a good spot for that kind of stuff.
Brilliant. Anything else on your list, Stephen? Or are we getting towards the end of it, or how much have you
Uh,
left?
oh, I've loads, but sure, I'm not going to get through it all because it'll bore you. But while we were talking about clothes, a sun hat. I know it's not the type of year for sun hat, but you can probably see from the shine at the top of my head. I'm not. What am I follically challenged? Is that what they say? But I haven't got a hair in my head, and typically I'd wear like a baseball cap.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
I'd always have a cap on my head, but then invariably I'd be getting a burnt
On the back of your
neck.
neck. Yeah,
Yeah, and you don't notice yourself, and it could often be. Normally in spring as well. You could be out there
it's
and
the
it wouldn't
first
be
few
that
days.
warm the
Yeah,
first few days, and you get caught.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so if I had, I
Been
haven't,
there.
if I, yeah, no, it's probably something you don't need to worry about quite as much as myself and John now. But yeah, definitely I could be destroyed coming in
Yeah.
an evening in April. So yeah, nice. And they can be quite inexpensive as well, but a nice wide brim hat that'll stop my neck getting destroyed and keep my
Yeah, and
a few hairs in my
again,
head.
there's some brilliant ones in that. If you look at any of the sort of gardening programs from the US or Australia, they always have the that hat. I know it's not called a sun hat, is it? Um,
Well, it's not sombrero, it's the other one I know,
Whatever.
but
I don't know what the name on it is, but that hat. But they also have the piece that hangs down at the back.
oh yeah.
Those guys do like that. And then, if you wanted something without that, there's some brilliant wax versions of it. I know I was in a farm store recently and they had a whole selection and there was a lot of them there, so obviously people are buying them. But
Mhm.
obviously wax, so they're waterproof and yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea as well. And again, a nice practical gift.
Yeah, hats in general, like as I said, something like to keep your head dry as well is always good.
Yeah.
But on for I was talking to my wife Janet, and we were talking about clothing in general was one of the things we were talking about. And I know the lads can get those gilets that we were talking earlier on, but there's
Hmm.
some really nice ones. Like there's a Dubarry Do one, and there's other brands, and Shootful, I think, is another one that's quite nice. We can get them in Conley's or Red Mills,
Oh
what's
yeah.
it called? Red Mills there in
Yeah, just
down your
outside
neck of the
Kilkenny.
woods.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Like their website's actually quite good in terms of the if you're going to get a nice present for someone and it's really functional, the gilets that they have are, yeah, top notch, really quite nice. And I
Yeah.
don't work for them, and I don't,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. But they
But
they also have really nice. Speaking of clothing, like they have really nice wax jackets and things like that. Some like they vary from sort of €100 up to, I think there was some of them 500 and 600 euros. So obviously there's different qualities or whatever. But
Mhm.
they were, yeah, there's some beautiful type clothing, outdoor clothing, really functional, but also, you know, they look good as well. So yeah,
Yeah, because the last thing you want to be is like cold and wet out
yeah,
there, and anything that's going to make it easier and keep you out in the garden longer is always good. You don't look like an idiot, have a lovely top on, a pair of ski pants on below, but what, but whatever it takes, keeping yourself nice and warm, it means you can kind of go out and enjoy yourself. Like yesterday was lashing rain, out in the garden, and I was doing my potting on. I had my ridiculous ski pants on, and of actually a terrible jacket, but I was out there and I was warm and I was happy and I was cozy, whistling away to myself like in Egypt. But it meant I was out there in whatever middle of November, and that makes that a little bit easier and more enjoyable is good.
yeah. So what did I say? There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
Just bad clothing's right,
Yeah.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Is your list finished now, Evelyn, or have you anything left on it?
I suppose just one more, but given that, suppose that again, I'm more aspirational than successful. I think anything to improve on skills, so like a course or something like that, I think is always a good one
Yeah,
to do. And so again, I suppose that depends on where the person is, and or if there's a virtual options and something like that. So yeah, so I'll be dropping a hint to himself now for an whole course as well. So
very good. And
Mhm.
what course would you like to see?
I think like I'd love something that, kind of something that's not too like, okay, crazy, something that's very doable, something kind of for a beginner, like maybe like to do a little bit of like growing your own kind of food or something like that, or something, or even how to do it like a decent herb garden
Yeah,
will be kind of good. Something that's so a little bit of something you can do, and then maybe a mix of aspirational as well.
yeah,
So
brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah, and courses we've mentioned them on pretty much all of the previous Christmas gifts episodes. There's the multitude of them out there. There's everything from cut flower growing to propagation to vegetable growing, and there's so many. My own workshops, I'd stopped doing them for a number of years. I'm back doing them in the springtime. I haven't got the dates finalized yet, but I will be doing two workshops, grow your own food workshops in the springtime, and some other ones yet to be finalized. So yeah, they are a good idea and a good gift for sure. What about you, Stephen? Would you like a course? Have you done courses
Um,
before?
I went to the Dunmore Country School before with
Brilliant.
two guy,
Yeah.
Tanguy. Yeah,
Tango,
which
yeah.
that was a really nice. That was as much a day out as anything else.
Yeah.
So that was in Duro. So myself and Jen went. She got it for me for Christmas a couple of years back, and we went out for the day, and we like the food was really good as
Yeah.
well. So you're walking around the garden, and you come in for a really nice bite to eat, and it's
Yeah.
the it, I. I can take some of it, absolutely, what Tanguy was talking about, but a lot of it maybe wouldn't be massively applicable to me. But at the same time, those nuggets that you get out of the day, if you can take one or two bits and pieces from a day that you'll
Yeah.
implement, that's what I found inspirational. Yeah, it's one or two little bits that were really, really good. So yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. No, I think that courses, as I said, they're a good option for somebody. And again, but it does depend on where they are in their journey. But if you know that and you're able to get the course that might suit them, if you're looking for somebody at the beginner stages, then yeah, you'll find a course for them. But if you do know that, I think a course is a brilliant option.
Mhm.
Um,
And I love the idea of doing it with a friend. Like that's definitely something me and her are kind of like, oh, to make it a day out as
yeah,
well.
Big time.
I think
Yeah.
that's
yeah,
great.
yeah, and I think there is that kind of, if you're able to go with somebody, it definitely adds to it and brings a kind of a community element to it, a bit of a fun element to it. I know some of like Julianne, who's been on the podcast before, like she does a Christmas wreath workshop, and it's a lot of friends go together to that. So you might get a couple of people going together, two or three people going, and it's a kind of a day out, as you said, Stephen. So you make a full day out of it. You come away at the end of the day with you know, a nice wreath for Christmas, you know, that sort of thing. So there's always something at the end of it, but it's also a nice day out as well. So yeah,
100%.
that sounds good. I'm going to give you a couple of things off my list as well,
Good man.
because I need to drop some hints at the same time.
I
So
have the pen out. Hold on there now.
so mentioned before, but I'm not sure exactly. I think open gardens, but specifically something like a visit or a tour of, say, Kew Gardens in the UK, or even the Amsterdam Tulip Festival, you know, to get a trip over to that, you know, make a weekend of it. Again, it wouldn't be something that would be just for the gardener. It, you know, could be something done with your wife or your partner or whatever. And I think that is a nice gift. And I suppose with the way we can travel now, it can be done where you get a nice voucher weekend in Amsterdam, see the Tulip Festival, and it's not going to cost, you know, too much. You can Airbnb it or booking.com. You know, you can get a nice weekend away there for a few £100. And for the gardener in your life, take in that Amsterdam Tulip Festival, and I think everybody will be happy on that one.
Well, is that in Amsterdam, or is that you go out to the farms and there you have all the
Yeah,
tulips in front of you?
yeah. So it's based in Amsterdam. You go out to the farms, and then there's the Keukenhof gardens where you go in and they have it themed. It's like 300,000 or 400,000 tulips are planted
Wow.
specifically each year with a different theme. And now you have to pay a ticket to go in and get that and buy your ticket and whatever. But it's incredible. I've only seen the videos of it so far, but they'll pick colors. They'll have, like last year I saw they had it started as a small stream, so it had a certain color, and as it went down, it was to replicate a river, and it got
Mm.
wider and wider and wider, and then opened into a lake, and it was just all the one color of tulips. It was just incredible, and I'd imagine
Wow.
to see that, and if you got lucky enough that you hit it on a day where it was sunny, I think you'd be blown away by it.
Sounds
So
great.
yeah, I think something like that would be class. Stephen, I think you have a couple more on your list, have you?
I probably do, but you probably don't want them all.
Yeah, no, we'll knock off another few and then we'll
All
start to
right,
round off.
grand. Yeah, kind of the experiential or whatever is I get a local garden designer, or a gardener consultation to come in
Yeah,
and to either confirm in your mind that you're not going mental and designing something terrible, or to give you a complete design, I suppose is it was quite good. What we found was, and if they're local, they have a kind of a real sense of what works in your area. So you were
yeah,
talking about hedging there on Friday, the
yeah,
last podcast, and they can give you a steer as to, what kind of works in your local area. And then yeah, so that was something that's reasonably affordable, and yeah,
yeah,
I can point it, especially if you're starting off and you're in your early stages of designing your garden or garden in general, just to get the big ideas
hmm
out there and designed and nailed down. And then you don't have, like, they don't necessarily, not everybody has to go, they're not all gardeners will have to come in and then, do all the work for you. They can just give you the ideas, give you the bones of a bit of a plan
yeah,
over a couple of hours of a day and then rattle ahead. So I think that'd be really beneficial to somebody who's interested in gardening.
yeah, brilliant. Yeah. And just out of interest, in your garden, have you sketched out a grand plan
Yeah.
and are you working towards that, or is
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Again, this is all thanks to COVID. I drew it out. I mean, drawing out things is where I'm better. I could spend a lot of time drawing stuff out. It's the
right?
executing part that's the more difficult. To get the work done is more difficult. But 100%, yes. I decided where we were going to put the veg garden, where we're going to put the beds. This is where the hedge is going between the areas. This is
Mm,
where the wildflower meadow's going. This is where, yeah. So I sketched all out broad plan. The hard
yeah,
landscaping bits and pieces. And over the years, there's no panic in this. Over the years, we're going to
keep
end up
going
with that
towards that.
spot.
Yeah,
100%, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Brilliant.
the plan.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to do it. They just in relation to your gift idea, where somebody would come in and do maybe a complete design. I like the idea of that, but I think as well, you've kind of alluded to it there. You're working towards that,
Mm.
and I think with a full design, when you look at it, that garden is designed and needs to be a full garden on day one.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, I hear you. Yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
when you're sketching, you have your ideas and you know what you want. You want your veg garden, you want your hedge here, you want your wildflower. And I suppose it doesn't need to be 20 years down the line straight away. It
Mhm.
can be stepped. Whereas sometimes with a garden design, it needs everything together to look the way it's supposed to look. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, it does. It does. And only to have the time, money, and patience to be able to do it all immediately would be
Yeah.
great. But yeah, I hear you. Like it has happened in our garden. It has been more I don't know, natural, or it's evolved, I suppose. And
Yeah.
if we were to just go with, if we had a out of the box plan, we implemented it day one, I'd also have to question, would it be, that was 4 years ago. The kids are a bit older now.
Yeah.
Would it actually work for us now? And maybe evolving it over time, where you do a piece and then see how it fits in with the rest of the space,
Hmm.
and then before you continue on with your next step. Yeah, maybe that can be more helpful. But I think sometimes somebody can also, I think it is important that somebody with a fresh pair of eyes can come in and see things that maybe you can't,
Yeah.
and see potential there in the space that you can't, because of their experience. I think
Yeah.
that could be invaluable. And in the same way, you may not take everything. There could be little few bits and pieces that you can draw on and go, that's a class idea, and then you rock on
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the consultation is a good idea as well. Like if you take, say, Evelyn, if you move into a new house or whatever, and you're at those very early stages of development, to have a consultation at that point in time is really beneficial, if you're new to gardening especially, because it'll give you ideas of what will work, what you can try, what you shouldn't do, or what the next step is. I think that's something that, because in the past I've advised people on new builds particularly, and they have the new build and what do we do next? Like literally, we have this house is finished, we have this space outside, budget is probably can be low or gone at that stage, and what do we do now, or how do we sort of start even outside? I think that's kind of good to have advice like that at that stage.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did something like that. So we got a design, but it's very much on pause because budget is definitely non-existent
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
So
stage. But it is good to have a plan so that you know where you're going to or where not to, put something or
yeah,
whatever, and where the light is, where you should kind of have your plants that need sun or whatever.
yeah, 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 for sure. It's good to have a plan and a consultation at that phase, and then it points you in the right direction, and eventually you'll start to do bits and pieces, and you'll move through the phases, say like Stephen has now, and yeah, I think that's a great idea for sure. So, anything else on your list, Stephen, before we start to round
I'll
off?
give
We'll
you one more, and it's kind of Christmassy related, and I've only just realized the reason it could be boot cleaners. So when Santi comes in and he's traipsing around in the snow, and his boots are covered in slush and everything else,
yeah,
like an ornate boot cleaner outside, up on top of the roof or out in the back door would be great. They have a little brush on them, and you can wedge your foot into it, kind of, and you
yeah,
can lift out your foot. I think
Brilliant.
one of them would
Brilliant.
be class.
yeah. And they have the little bar that sticks up that you can drop your wellies down on top of it as well, haven't they?
No, this is getting extravagant now. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
I know that Kilkenny Architectural Salvage, they sell one that has, like, it's cast iron,
Yeah.
looks that kind of rusty look like you were talking about, has the brush on top.
Mhm.
You brush off your boot, and then for your wellies you flip them upside down, and there's like a bar with a ball on the top of it, and they sit down over it so the rain is not going into them, and they're sitting at the back door when you want them. Like,
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, yeah.
brilliant.
Because there's nothing worse, when it come in, you walk in, you don't realize it, and then you're after trumping muck around
Yeah.
the house, and everybody's giving out to you. So, and that can make life a little bit easier. Yeah, is always
Yeah.
appreciated. So something like
I'm
that would be
gonna I gotta just shoot out a few of the last few of my list, because So far, we haven't had a single power tool, which is a first. I'm not going to change that. I'm going to leave it now that there is no power tool on it this year because I know people were slagging when I had the leaf blower on previously. Um, but I think again, there's some really brilliant gardening books, and again, depending on where someone is on their gardening journey, if it was a beginner's gardening book, um, there's some fantastic ones from Irish writers that we've had on the podcast before. So TJ Marr's book, Grounded in the Garden, from the perspective of matching colors, which, that could be somebody who's matching colors in a pot or matching colors in a border. His eye for color is amazing, and he explains how he does that with the use of the color wheel in the book. But visually, it's one of the most beautiful books that you'll see. That's a brilliant book. Jimmy Blake's book, again, these are not new in that they haven't been brought out in the last year, but they're definitely up there as being some of the best gardening books that you'll get. Jimmy Blake's book is another brilliant one. Um, on the veg front, I'll try and keep it to Irish authors actually here. Klaus Leitenberger's gardening books for Irish gardens is a brilliant. He has two or three. There's one for polytunnels and greenhouses. There's another one for just vegetable grown in an Irish garden, and they're really practical, but they will suit anybody at any level, that kind of thing. So I think they're brilliant. Other things that I had on the list was things like, and I mentioned at the start, these can be tricky to buy, but something like roses, if you were talking about a David Austin rose, for example, I don't think there's a gardener that wouldn't find a place for that. Even if you were in an urban garden, you would get a nice pot, and you'd have your rose in it. And I think something like that, a classy rose or a classy plant of some sort, would suit most gardeners. So there's other things. The power tools are there, but I'm not going to read them out.
How bad
I'd always appreciate a leaf blower or the recent one that I'm after falling in love with is a petrol auger for planting.
What's that?
So basically, it's oh yeah, we're getting excited now. You have a petrol engine with a long, like 3 foot tall auger that twists into the ground,
Oh, very
and
good.
it basically makes a hole to plant your whatever into. And you have various size augers on it, so it's
For a
and
fence or whatever, yeah? You could put
for a fence, but even for if you had a lot of planting to do.
okay.
So
Yeah.
if you were doing a lot of planting really fast, no digging,
Yeah.
not mad expensive either. Like you can get a really good one for even battery. You can get a battery up rated one for like 100, 150 euro.
Mhm.
But just really fast way of getting planting done if you have a bit of planting to do. So
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
will
One of
that
those
fit
things
under your tree?
that'll fit under the tree, yeah, for sure. Definitely fit under the tree. It'll look a bit awkward under there, all right, but but
Don't
yeah,
forget
no,
the petrol on the day ever. You know,
the
ever
petrol,
forgets
yeah.
the batteries. You'll need to remember the
I
petrol.
smell the present over here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah, I had clothing on my list. I had hand tools, and secateurs, which I think both of you had on your list. Just so many good ones out there. I did have the holster as well on the list. I had power tools, didn't delve too much into that. Roses, trees, plants, seeds, bulbs, which you covered nicely in your Mr. Middleton voucher at the very start. Obviously, the hamper, which there's so many ways of doing it, and like Stephen's example there of the cut flower one, that was a brilliant one, start to finish, seeds, your way of growing it, your instructional book at the start, and then finishing with your nice framing piece at the end. So I think yeah, that's a hamper, and a thoughtful hamper like what you put together, Stephen, would be a fantastic gift. So yeah, I think all in all, quite a good list. I think
You could
Eibhlin
put
is
your
something.
hamper in a pot.
Oh yeah,
Good idea. There we go.
Especially this big pot that Stephen's looking for. So
Yeah,
a
you
really
need a
big
lot to
pot.
fill a Stephen's pot.
Exactly. Stick everything into it. Be
Yeah,
grand.
with a hamper. What else was there? There was the waders. There was the mattock. Yeah,
The gilet and the ski
yeah,
pants in there
yeah.
as well. We'll be doing all right.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's yeah. So that's brilliant list of gifts. I think we've dropped a good few hints there. I hope that anyone listening is going to be dropping hints as well and sharing this with their better halves, because yeah, I think most gardeners would appreciate some form of a gardening gift. Actually, one that has didn't come up this year and has come up every year was a gardening journal. Would either of you use a gardening journal? I personally don't, but would you?
Um, I I like the idea of it,
Yeah,
and I do have like ones that I started but then never I tend to use my phone more
yeah,
so
hmm
than, because usually it's raining and you know
yeah,
yeah. So I like the idea of it, but I probably wouldn't actually use it.
yeah. I personally don't use one either.
I've used one once or twice. I've used it once, and I was fairly good with it for that particular season for veg and stuff.
Yeah,
In terms of I set out the times that I did sow things, but then you know what it's like. You get so busy with
yeah.
trying to just do the gardening
Do the job.
activities to come in and have the discipline to write it all down afterwards. You go, no, it's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but it is good to look back on though. It's the only thing I'd say. It is nice
Y-
to go what happened in that particular year.
Yeah, I think that's a good part of it. I find that, even writing out the dates, and I sowed it here and I planted it there and I harvested here. I think that's within the season. I think that's hard to do because things get so busy that you forget here, and if you miss a little bit. But from an overall perspective, if you're able to look back at the end of a year
Mm.
and see, what happened in those various months, even things like weather trends or varieties that did really well for you or varieties that didn't do well for you,
Yeah.
that's useful kind of information
Mm,
gathering for
It'd
sure.
be good if you could stick it into your polytunnel or down in your potting shed. If you could leave it out, I think
Yeah,
getting you have to bring, if it's out there at the time you've just done the sowing, you're more inclined to actually use
yeah,
it, I'd say. Where if you have to bring it back inside, right up, yeah, you're probably not going to bother.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Stephen and Eibhlin, thank you very much. That was a fantastic list. Lots of interesting things, some things that we didn't have it on it before, some practical gifts, some nice inspirational gifts, some yeah, that kind of touched, I think, something in it for everybody. So thank you very much for coming on this episode of Master My Garden podcast.
You're more than welcome.
thanks, John.
Happy
Nice to meet
Christmas,
you.
everybody.
Yeah. So that's been this week's episode. A huge thanks to Stephen and Eibhlin for coming on. Yeah, some really interesting gifts there. The usual ones come up, the secateurs and things like that, but there's lots of, I suppose, different gifts out there, lots of gift options, lots of different price points. I think it is important to try and think where the gardener might be on the journey if you're, buying a gift for them. If somebody's, starting out, there might be certain gifts that would be very suitable. I think pretty much any tools at that stage of the journey would be useful because they probably don't have them yet. And then as they go along, then you might be changing what might be useful for that gardener. So yeah, there's lots of different options there. As I say, loads of different price points and something in it for everybody. Definitely, if you're listening, make sure you share that podcast with your better halves and get them to have a listen and start gathering these gifts up over the coming weeks. And next week's episode is a good one. We're back on the bare root season and we're chatting about that with a very good nursery. So, but that's been this week's episode. Thanks for listening, and until the next time, happy gardening.